What makes people age the most? Write down. I look forward to hearing your opinion on what ages you the most. Have fun watching. Story 1. The research right now is pointing to higher calorie intake. While we obviously need to eat, digestion causes a lot of oxidative stress on our bodies, and there can be benefit to generally eating less and even having fasting periods. Anecdotally, I've always been a sort of light eater, and while I've never made massive gains in the gym, people often mention that I look young for my age, but that might be unrelated. Story 2. Refusing to make changes or try something new, whether it is your diet, exercise, hair, clothing style, makeup, occupation, relationships, finances, or learning. Have you ever heard the phrase, "I have always done it this way"? I have encountered people that just have a vibe about them. Their secret as time passes is they reinvent themselves. They still use the old that works, but also add something new. Story 3. Age isn't fully linked to death. Time is just how we keep track of things. What makes people die the fastest? Consumption, digestion, disease, injury, bad addictions, severe depression, not maintaining your health. All these things add up, but it also has to do with genetics. So some people are extremely health conscious and die at 40. Some people chain smoke and drink, live till 80. I'd say, use your organs for consumption as little as possible. Stay in good shape physically. If we are saying what would make someone degrade the most physically and mentally, hard drugs addiction coupled with complete abandon of health. Story 457. Yamal, who is often told I look early 30s. My son refers to me as his brother. Secrets. Binge drinking. Skip breakfast and see how far you can make it without. No hot water on face. Tell everyone you are 5 years older than you really are. No sun except 30. 40 seconds or hat. Long sleeve shirt and sunscreen. A few years back, I watched a show, Fit in 6 minutes a week. Basic gist is to elevate heart rate to exhaustion over about 1 minute after a warm-up. The changes to dermal thickness is incredible. I eat a lot of purple foods. Black coffee. Give and receive non-sexual attention, to from wife. Gluten-free. Beard has gray, so keep shaved. Think that's about it. Story 5. Haha, same. If I could upvote this 1,000,000 times. My 24-year-old daughter reply to anyone who says how young I look at 43 inches thanks, she was a goth. Teens and early 20s are where most devastating sun damage, well, the damage you start to see at 40, 50, 60 plus. No smoking, drinking, dehydrated your skin, it's literal poison, or sun, and my smooth, pale, tattooed skin looks like marble. Story 6. Drugs. They make you feel good, but since they are foreign materials and your body has no record of them in your DNA, then it cleans itself. During cleaning, some healthy cells are destroyed. The lesser the number of your healthy cells, the older you are. Not physically old, but biologically old, which can indirectly affect physical, thus end up looking old. Story 7. Besides smoking and excess sun, being dehydrated and sitting too long are a couple of other reasons. Make sure to drink enough fluids, water, and as you do get older, sitting too long wreaks havoc on the body and the joints. Also, how one thinks can also speed up the aging process. Just because you are getting older does not mean you have to be old. Plus, there's genetics. Sometimes, no matter how healthy we live, we may still look older because of our family genes. Story 8. Opening a 14,000 square foot $2 million brewery venture on your own. Starting construction shortly before a worldwide pandemic. Losing your life savings in that venture because you fell for the sunk cost fallacy. And ultimately shutting that venture down because no matter how successful it was, it could never escape the cost overruns and accompanied accumulated debt. Story 9. Poor health, lack of exercise, and poor diet ages people huge. I've worked in the gum industry for years, and not properly taking care of your body will make you age. Skin is the largest organ in the body. Drinking water, exercise, eating well, sleeping enough, all of these will keep people looking younger. Story 10. Not one thing but two in concert will take you down over 20 years. Winter and doing a job you hate. Not dislike, but hate. After college, I went from NY to LA and only did gigs I liked. Or if I got to the point where I realized I was going to hate something, I moved to a new gig. Eventually landed some work that's semi-fulfilling, but not overly taxing. And for the most part, stayed in SoCal by the water, the land of 75 and sunny most of the year. I went back to my high school reunion and about half the class, super high motivated folks from a science and math school, looked like Gollum. They stared at me like I stepped out of a time machine. Story 11. Stress. I remember a website once which showed before and after photographs of U.S. presidents when they took office, and when they left, and how much they've aged in that time is much more than what 4 or even 8 years normally would. The graying hair, the wrinkles, etc., from having to do that job and the toll it must take. The only president who served more than 2 terms, FDR, died in office because of the stress. He was drinking and smoking so heavily because of having to deal with the war and the depression. It was amazing he lived long enough to see his 4th term. Story 12. Time, sun, stress, rigid mindset, lack of sleep, smoking, poor nutrition, too many calories, no fasting, alcohol, partying too hard, psychoactive substance dependence, genetics. The impact on age will vary, dependent on the degree of which it is expressed. Balance is important. Be mindful of the human impulse urge to indulge and ignore the warning signs. Story 13. Telomeres. Okay, so picture your DNA as a long string. At the ends of each string are kind of like plastic tips on shoelaces. These are telomeres. Their job is to protect the DNA from damage. When cells divide, the DNA is copied, but a tiny bit of the telomere gets snipped off each time. This is a natural part of the process. But as this happens over and over, the telomeres get shorter and shorter. Once they get too short, the cell can't divide properly anymore. It either stops dividing altogether or becomes senescent, which means it's alive but not functioning like it should. The gradual shortening of telomeres affects how well our cells can regenerate and repair themselves over time, thus aging occurs. Story 14. Science is pretty sure that smoking lessens the lifespan by the biggest margin. For looks alone, I'd say it's still smoking. For kids, it's puberty. Smoking apparently steals about 12 to 14 years of our lives. And before you say, my Aunt Frida smoked like a chimney and died at 107, yeah, cool. She might have become 121 then. Story 15. I lost my wife, children, health, job, and parent, and even the cat I had for 15 years died. Unfortunately, this really happened. People who know me been saying I am dead inside ever since. I think they aren't wrong. I have money, a home, and a decent car, but that doesn't mean shit. I feel a lot older than I am. It also gives a spile trait. If I walk through a random store, I can pinpoint exactly who has gone through the same sort of thing. I can see it in their eyes. I do have mental issues in the form of PTSS. There's nothing they can do about it. In the end, it all comes down to yourself. You have to live with it or don't. I'm still here, trying to make TNE best of it. But I give 0 fucks if I wouldn't wake up the next day. But to come back to the question, indeed, it does make me look older than I am. Story 16. Poor nutrition. I'm 69, and last year my health was crap. Then in Sept, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Since then, I've transformed my diet. Not to stay alive, but just to not flop around like an anxious fish. The result, every ache and inflammation I've been living with for the past 10 years vanished. I've dropped about 20 kilos, 44 pounds, and my entire body feels so much better. I'm still going to die soon, but now at least I'm going to look and feel a bunch better as I do. Story 17. If you mean by looks, then the skin ages drastically when exposed to the sun a lot. There is a Vsauce video on how teenagers in the 90s look really old compared to teenagers now, because of all the sun exposure. The lung becomes a gray bag if you smoke loosing. Its efficiency as well as greatly increase your risk for various cancerous throughout the respiratory system. You can find photos of it compared to a healthy lung online. If we are talking genetically overall, then childhood trauma is said to literally shorten the telomeres in your DNA, which get shorter over time, and the cell stops replicating if it is gone. If we are talking about something that mentally ages you in your adult life, then definitely poverty and stress of any kind, be it taking care of a child or relative, homelessness or work-related stress like being forced to do a job you hate, and or being forced to work excruciatingly long hours each week to the point where you don't have any energy left for anything outside of work. Story 18. Stress. I had a real estate developer, city employee harassing my family for 2 years, threatening us every holiday with eminent domain notices. Totally not legal for a condo developer. City shut off services to the street. Developer even tried to close the city street altogether, but a nice lady in the permitting office stood up for us and said no. Developer filled the homes around us with deranged criminals. Cops stopped defending the street from junkies shooting heroin in my front yard. My friends all told me I aged 10, 20 years, not just in gray hair, but in wrinkles and stress in my face. I noticed in the mirror that when I smile, it doesn't even look like a smile anymore. Finally sold to the developer for a low price. Lost a lot of money, but I feel immensely better. Haven't reversed the aging yet, though. Story 19. Alcohol, smoking, stress, unhealthy living like there's no tomorrow, in teens and 20s especially, too much suntanning, Sun is also super healthy, just gotta check the UV, which nowadays is super easy with our phones. Everything in moderation. And the obvious answer: illness, sickness, and disease, and hard drug addictions. And also depression and mental struggles or illness can also visibly age someone a few years within a year. Story 20. The last time I went to the beach with my mom and her lifelong friend called Aunt, I was asked about the differences in their skin. Look at your mom's beautiful skin. How is hers so smooth and pretty and mine looks like this, like crepe paper? I know it was because Aunt smoked cigarettes and sunbathed for hours. Mom didn't smoke or sunbath, but I couldn't tell her. At 80 years old, it would just be hurtful. Story 21 from a purely looks perspective, the sun and smoking. Nothing causes wrinkles like those guys. I grew up in a sunny place and emigrated to Europe when I was 21. All my friends back home who stayed under the African sun look much older than me, facially, as they have far more sun damage. Factor 50 sunblock is way better at preventing wrinkles than any amount of retinol or other commercialized face cream could ever be at removing them. Story 22. Poverty. I worked for a non-profit in Central Appalachia for several years, and pretty much every local I dealt with looked 20 years older than they were. Stress, lack of access to adequate health care, unhealthy foods being cheaper than healthy foods, etc. It all adds up. Story 23. Honestly, it's the combo of stress and forgetting to wear sunscreen. Stress messes with your whole body, sleep, moods, the works, and those sunspots you get from just running errands? Yeah, they add up over time. Of course, some of it's just not being 20 anymore, but I swear, avoiding major dramas and slapping on some SPF in the morning makes a bigger difference than all those fancy creams. Story 24. Oh, I have so many answers to this. It all comes from observing what my friends did that I didn't. I look around 9, 10 years younger than I am. Drinking and smoking is #1. I started drinking about 6 years after all my friends did because I was too scared. This means my going out phase was shorter than literally everyone I know. Alcohol is poison. I only poisoned my body heavily with alcohol for about 2, 3 years. My tolerance was lower, so by heavily I mean 5, 6 drinks would get me plastered. Everyone else poisoned themselves heavily for 7+ years. I've never smoked cigarettes, but I did vape for about a year and a half and hit a bong a few times. Then I noticed all these girls who were 4, 5 years younger than me, but had been smoking for like 5+ years, actually looked older than me. I also quit smoking weed and vaping THC when I realized this. The next thing is lack of water and too much makeup. People don't seem to get it. If you poison your body and pour chemicals into your skin will age so quickly and your skin will be bad. It won't glow. You'll have acne or porous, rough skin up until I hit 30. I only ever wore mascara and eyeshadow when I went out partying. Nothing else on my face. No foundation, no concealer, nothing. I look something like 9, 10 years younger than everyone else my age. I still go without any foundation. I do use concealer under my eyes now to conceal any eye bags. Water, starting around 18 or 19. I started drinking a ton of water. I don't like soda. So literally for like 7, 8 years I was only drinking water. No alcohol, no soda, just water. Everyone saying the sun, that's the last of your worries. The sun is part of nature. The chemicals in makeup are not. Start rinsing your face with water for a year and put nothing on your face. There's still time to save what is left of your skin. The very last thing is sleep. Sure, you can stay up or get the least amount of sleep possible, but why are you doing this to yourself? It doesn't matter who or where you are, 6 hours a night minimum. I've never stayed up without sleep longer than 24 hours in my entire life. It only happened once or twice. If you're tired, go to sleep. No, really, my girlfriends used to get mad at me for falling asleep during movie nights in college. I fell asleep at the theater pretty much whenever I was tired. I just fell asleep. None of them look younger than they are. They all look their age, if not older. Story 25. Fucking chemotherapy. I'm 21. Shit makes me bedridden for days on end. Couldn't imagine being older. And I try and exercise regularly between treatments, and it's so rough. Here's a tip for anyone on chemo, or for those that probably will at some point. THC and extra fluids make a huge difference. Unfortunately, most individuals will get some type of cancer in their lives. It just hits others early. It's damaging, and a lot of times irreversible. Story 26. I volunteer with the homeless. Most of the things listed here that age you faster are relative to privilege. Eating right, exercising, staying out of the sun. Being homeless ages you really fast. Mental health issues, drug use, sleeping rough, poor food, and emergence of issues related to poor physical health can age bodies incredibly fast, especially if they're happening in concert. It's happened before that I've known someone homeless for a year or so who likes to stay in one spot, and then one day simply isn't there anymore. It's happened a few times and, well, it sticks with your butt, also sucks real hard. Story 27. Stopping activity. My mother-in-law retired last year and has aged about 10 since then. She no longer keeps any sort of schedule. She sleeps all day, sits around watching Netflix when she is awake, and wonders why her body hurts when she walks around the grocery store. Story 28. Also just turning 30 LOL. It's amazing how all of a sudden all the bad habits you had just a few years ago, and that people are mentioning here, start catching up with you. It's not so bad by itself, but you notice the lack of sleep, the effects of stress, impact of drugs, alcohol a lot more than you used to. Story 29. Kids. Partying son. I am the oldest and least good-looking of 3 siblings, but by far the youngest looking. They had kids, drank, took drugs, didn't care about sun exposure. I was the pale nerd who never started a family. Gravity and gray hair catch up to everyone, so I finally look my age, but very few lines on my face, no wrinkles, and I feel good. I'm in my late 50s. Story 30. I'd say alcohol, but it's usually used to combat some sort of stress. That stress may have been inflicted from an outside job with excessive sun exposure. A cocktail of sorts, you might say. Speaking from experience. But I've seen many people who don't have the stressful outside job, but drink all the time and look like they hit every branch of the ugly tree on the way down. Alcohol and nicotine aren't worth the buzz or satisfaction associated with either. Story 31. Lockdown. I went into lockdown physically and mentally somewhere in my early 40s. I came out of lockdown my actual age, 59. Before lockdown, it had been my intention to work for as long as the school would have me. I managed to make it to the end of the academic year and retired at the age of 60. The reverse to your question, what makes you younger? Retirement. After a rough 18 months trying to find my way in life, I am finally at a point that I am the happiest I've been for many, many years. Physically, I'm back to being in my early 50s, and mentally I'm acting like an idiot again, according to my partner. Story 32. Sun, heavy drug use, smoking, anything that involves inhaling smoke, alcohol. Best thing to prevent is to avoid sun exposure. A good sunscreen. Also get a screen for your car window and find a sun hat that fits, moisturizer, and stay hydrated. Retinols can help, but you'll have to develop a skincare routine. Dermal needling works, but again, it's a routine. Dermal stamping is easier. Also be sure you're getting collagen from natural sources, supplements if you want to, like bone broth, eggs, lean meats, vitamin C, and dark leafy greens. If you want to go all out, CO2 laser resurfacing or other resurfacing treatments can boost collagen production. I like these because you see the collagen boost over 6 months, and it's gradual. Having said that, you got to make sure to limit sun exposure and be religious with your sunscreen. And don't stress. Also recommended. Botox or Dysport and filler for the problem areas. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.